Now let's go to Los Angeles, and this is a crazy story. Federal law enforcement officials are announcing a major development in what they call a significant national security investigation. This is all about a man who's accused of shipping weapons to North Korea by hiding them in shipping containers from Long Beach, California. Listen to this.
Good morning. My name is Martin Estrada. I'm the United States Attorney based in Los Angeles. We're here today gathered with our law enforcement partners to announce federal charges involving an individual who acted as an operative for the North Korean government in our country. We are charging a criminal scheme involving this individual and officials with the North Korean government. This criminal scheme involved obtaining in our country military supplies and high-grade technology, and then sending those materials illegally to North Korea. The person that we've charged is an individual named Shenghua Wen. He was arrested this morning. We allege that he conspired with government officials in North Korea to obtain military supplies, including firearms and ammunition, to obtain technology, and then conceal that technology and those materials in shipping containers that departed from the port of Long Beach, and then ship those materials on to North Korea. All of this was illegal. Let me provide you some background. As many of you know, North Korea is a country that has been deemed to be hostile to the interests of the United States. Therefore, North Korea has been subject to sanctions and restrictions. Under U.S. law and executive orders that have been in place for years, it is illegal for North Korea to obtain certain high-grade technology and certain military supplies without approval of the U.S. government. That means that in light of the extraordinary threat that North Korea poses to our national interests and to our foreign policy, in order for certain materials, including military supplies, to be sent to North Korea, there must be approval from the U.S. government. Without such approval, sending those materials to North Korea is a violation of law and a criminal offense. But, as alleged in the criminal complaint we are announcing today, North Korea engaged in a scheme to circumvent and evade those restrictions. Key to this scheme and central to this plot was the individual we arrested today, Shenghua Wen. Mr. Wen was working on behalf of the North Korean government to ship prohibited items on to North Korea. Let me give you a little background on Mr. Wen. Mr. Wen is a Chinese national. He came to this country in 2012 on a student visa. He overstayed that visa and thus was illegally in this country. I note that because given that he was illegally in this country, he was not permitted to possess either firearms or ammunition. Based on our investigation, we've learned the following about this plot. Before leaving China, Mr. Wen met with officials with the North Korean government. He met with them at North Korean consulates in the People's Republic of China. The North Korean officials sought to have Mr. Wen obtain military supplies and high-grade technology in the United States and send it to North Korea. Once Mr. Wen came to this country, the North Korean officials reached out to him. They used encrypted communication platforms to communicate with Mr. Wen. They asked him to obtain specific items, including firearms and ammunition. The North Korean officials sent Mr. Wen at least $2 million to pay for obtaining these materials and also to pay for the shipping costs. In order to carry out the scheme and obtain these illegal materials, illegal to ship to North Korea, Mr. Wen bought a business. It was called Super Armory. It was a federal firearms licensee, and he paid $150,000 for it. It was licensed in the state of Texas. The money to pay for this business came from the North Korean officials. Mr. Wen would obtain firearms and ammunition through this business, but also through others who he would pay to obtain the firearms. These are known as straw purchasers. He would then take these materials, often from the state of Texas, drive them over to California before taking them to the ports and shipping them. He would ship these materials by concealing them. For instance, we know he shipped at least 2 different shipments in 2023, and one of these shipments was labeled a refrigerator. Another was labeled as camera parts. But we now know they actually contained materials that were illegal to ship to North Korea, including firearms, ammunition, and high-grade technology. When we caught Mr. Wen, we found that he was actually planning to send much more to North Korea. In a search of his home, including a van parked outside of his home, we found over 50,000 rounds of ammunition, which Mr. Wen admitted he was planning to send to North Korea. We also found pieces of high-grade technology in his home that he was also planning to send to North Korea. This included a chemical threat identification device and a device for detecting hidden listening devices. You see to my right here images of some of those devices, some of the technology he was intending to send. Among the images we found on his phone that he had sent or was planning to send was an object you'll see there. It looks like a sphere. It is actually a thermal imaging system. It is meant to be attached to aircraft and can be used for reconnaissance or target identification. Obviously, items that our government does not want in the hands of the North Korean military or government. We also found other items that Mr. Wen was asked to provide to the North Koreans. He had been asked to provide engines, plane engines, that the North Koreans could then use to help develop their military drone program. And North Korean officials also asked Mr. Wen to obtain military uniforms. And they told him that the idea with these military uniforms was to help in conducting a surprise attack on South Korea. We have charged Mr. Wen with the following federal crime: conspiracy to violate the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA. This federal crime carries a potential sentence of 20 years in a federal prison. I will note the investigation is ongoing and additional charges may be filed. I will also note that as a charged defendant, Mr. Wen is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Let me conclude. The conduct alleged in this complaint is chilling. One of our foreign adversaries, North Korea, was running an operative in our country and using that operative to obtain high-grade technology and military equipment, including firearms and ammunition. And the purpose of this, allegedly, was to help conduct an attack on one of our allies, South Korea. Protecting our national security goes to the core of our mission at the U.S. Attorney's Office. It is a key priority. And in order to carry out this priority, it's essential we keep sensitive materials, including military equipment, outside the hands of our adversaries, where they can harm us or our allies. I want to give gratitude to the law enforcement agents involved in this. If not for their work, the situation here could have been much worse. There's no telling what additional damage...
You've been listening in on CBS News 24/7 to some pretty jaw-dropping developments. A man arrested on suspicion of shipping weapons and other items from the United States, from Long Beach, California, into North Korea. That man set up a business in Texas, financed, according to the man you see here on your screen, financed by the North Korean government in an arrangement that started and took place inside China. That man, a Chinese national, coming back to the United States, setting up that business in Texas, and then running weapons between Texas and California, placing them in disguise in shipping containers and sending them to North Korea. Much more to come on these jaw-dropping developments. They got him. He's arrested. He's facing many, many charges. It's a crazy day in news as it relates to North Korea and South Korea. Of course, we've been watching. We started our broadcast watching the president of South Korea declaring martial law and some pushback from lawmakers in South Korea. The allegation in South Korea by the president that members of a party are conspiring with North Korea and engaging in what he calls anti-state activities. Much more to come on CBS News 24/7.